Hi there, Claire Downham here with today's Step from Stress to Inner Peace. And today I am going to talk about wisdom. It's a really interesting word, isn't it? Because it's used to describe, I think, often people who are well read and old and wise and have grey hair, and we think of them as being wise because they, or an owl that's also a symbol of wisdom, isn't it? And that gives us the idea that wisdom is about knowledge, about knowing things, about being around a long time and reading lots of books, or perhaps writing books too. And I have a different take on wisdom. I also sometimes call it intuition. You might call it gut instinct. There's all sorts of different, perhaps you can pop in the comments the other things that you call it. But I'm just going to say wisdom today, but it means all of those things: intuition, inner voice, gut instinct, all of those things. It's like an inner knowing about something. And what I think about wisdom has changed really dramatically over the last year or so. And I think I would have been in that camp that somebody who's wise is somebody who has lots of knowledge and knows lots of things. And now I think very differently, because I think somebody who's wise knows what's right for them and is connected to that sense of what's right for them. So for me, wisdom is a thing that connects us to something much bigger than us. It feels sometimes like a voice that's coming from elsewhere. Wisdom to me is the thing that means that the trees know that right now it's time for them to drop their leaves. My daughter's been learning about, she's been in a biology course, and she's been learning about all the things. She's 20, but she's been learning about all the things that happen inside the leaf and all the different types of chlorophyll and chlorophyll A and B. And don't ask me about the science of it. But I said to her, well, how do they know? How does it know that it's got to change the balance of different chlorophylls to change from leaves from being green to being the beautiful colours that we've got right now? And she just went, well, it just does. And of course it just does, because nature knows what to do, doesn't it? It doesn't need any pushing and shoving from us. It knows it's time for the leaves to drop, and that in the spring it will be time for new buds to grow, and all the things that happen in between. And, you know, the bees know which are the best flowers to go to make the best honey and to feed the babies in their hive. Nature just knows lots of things, doesn't it? It knows what to do. And we've been watching some nature programs recently because my daughter's very interested in the planet and the environment and stuff. And like some of the things that some birds go through in terms of their mating dances and stuff are just unbelievable. And there is no thinking going on in that. It's just happening because the bird just has something inside it, its own wisdom, without the noise of everybody else telling it what to do. And it just knows what to do. It just knows what the next thing is to do in order to attract a mate and in order to reproduce its species. And I think what we forget is that we are part of that nature. That wisdom that nature has is in us too. But there's so much noise, isn't there, in our heads, and so much noise outside of us, that sometimes we just completely lose that guide inside that knows what's right for us. Another great example of wisdom at play is that, I sometimes work with people to help them change their relationship with food in a similar way to how I help people with stress and anxiety. And they did a study a little while ago. I don't know if it's 2 or 3-year-olds. I've heard two different versions of this type of study. And they give these 2-year-olds just freedom to choose their food over 2 weeks. And obviously, when they first get in a room full of food, 2-year-olds will just eat whatever, rubbish, as we might call it, junk food, or just junk. In fact, as there is no such thing as junk food, just junk. And they'll eat, first of all, they'll eat all the sugary things, but then over a 2-week period, if children are just allowed to choose their own food, given a wide range of foods to choose from, they inherently know how to create a balanced diet. And in fact, the study showed that over a 2-week period, those children pretty much created a balanced diet all by themselves, with no adults to interfere and poke and prod and tell them what to do. And as you will know, we lose that relationship with food. And I think we lose that relationship with our own intuition and our own ability to learn our way, to find out about the world our way, to follow our inner guide. And so that to me is that wisdom. But then people get really caught up when I talk about wisdom. Well, how do I know it's wisdom? And how do I know it's not coming from outside? And how do I know it's not thinking? And how do I know that it's wisdom as opposed to just that churning thought that's going on all the time? And particularly that comes into play when people are trying to make a decision. You know, is it A or B? How do I know? Will my wisdom tell me whether it's A or B? Well, the first thing to know about that is that you won't know until you know. And I get that sometimes can feel not okay because we want things to be in place now and we think it's got to happen now. But in actual fact, when you know, you know. When you know the answer to something, you just know. And there's only one answer. There's only one answer when you really know. They did a study recently of entrepreneurs, and they asked those entrepreneurs where they have their best ideas. I've mentioned this study before. And we have our best ideas. Where do you have your best ideas? You know, I have mine, unfortunately, at 4 o'clock in the morning quite often when I wake up to go to the loo, and then, there's an idea that I have to write down. And it comes from nowhere almost. But these entrepreneurs said it was in the shower, it was when they were out playing golf, which of course that's what us entrepreneurs do much of the time, is play golf. It was when they were just on holiday, spending time with their children. They weren't in the workplace invariably. They weren't in their working space. They were somewhere else, somewhere quieter. Because for me, that's when wisdom comes into play. It's when we're not thinking about things, when we are quiet. So how does wisdom feel different to thinking? So what I've noticed is that when I'm thinking about something, or maybe you've noticed this too, there is this, is it this or this? Is it that or that? And we can go like backwards and forwards with lots of different scenarios. If that's going on, then that's thought. That's thinking. That's not wisdom. When wisdom comes, it is one thing. It is the light bulb moment. It is the gut instinct that feels so strong inside you. It's the do that now thing. It feels very, very different to that toing and froing, noisy in your head. But sometimes when we've got so much of that noisy in our heads, we just can't hear the wisdom, because this is like an orchestra and the wisdom's like a little tiny flute tweeting away inside us, trying to be heard. So if there's a back and forth inside your head, is it this or this? Is it that or that? I pretty much guarantee that's not your wisdom. And most of that thinking is invariably based around, if I make this decision, this is what I think will happen in the future. And if I make this other decision, other things are going to happen in the future. And the thing about the future is, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? We're making it up. You don't know when you make a decision what's going to happen. You only can know in the present moment what feels right. And that's your wisdom. And wisdom just gives you one thing invariably, and that is the next step. And a big part of this thing about being willing to hear your wisdom is that it's not going to happen on your timescale. Insights, wisdom, gut instinct is not for you to just click and make it appear. It will come when it is ready. It will come probably when you take your mind off the thing that you think you need to decide, off the thing where you think you need some wisdom. Because it comes when it wants to. It doesn't really care what you think. And that's, the same as in nature, like I said at the beginning, where nature will do what it does in the order it wants to do it in. And what better sign at the moment of that happening? You know, nature has brought something about, and it's happening in the world, and we didn't decide it. We've decided a lot of things since, not all of them possibly wise. Anyway, that's another story. So again, there is nothing to do about this but to realize that your experience has been created through thought in the moment. So if your head is very noisy with a thing you think you need to do, a decision you think you need to make, if there's a should there, I should sort this out, I should make this decision, then just step back from that. Just take a step back, because if you notice your headspace right now, if you've got something on your mind you think you need to have some guidance about, and your head is noisy, then trust me, there is not going to be the wisdom that you really could do with when there's all that noise in your head. It just can't come through. So I guess just knowing that that's how it's working is what I am sharing with you. That's why I am a guide. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to tell you how it works. And that's what I do most of the time now, is just tell people how it works, because when we know how it works, it just works better. And from a noisy mind of toing and froing about a decision or something you think you need to know, you are not going to find it easy to connect to that wisdom. So wisdom is definitely not, when there is that toing and froing, it is not wisdom having an argument with thought. It is thought and thought and thought and thought, and wisdom is somewhere else. And for me, it feels physically a little bit different, actually. When I've got a lot on my mind, that my head feels busy. When I make a decision from wisdom, it literally doesn't feel like I've made a decision. It feels like I'm just doing something. Oh, that just is the next thing I'm doing. It just feels okay. It feels right. And it generally pans out pretty well as well, even if it's an unexpected bit of wisdom that I wasn't really expecting to appear. There is something a little bit over there rather than looking forward. So just be aware of that. Be aware that if your head is noisy and full of thought, it is going to be harder to hear what wisdom is. But sometimes even then it can just come through, and it will just come through as one thing, and it will feel so solid and so clear that there will just be no doubt in your mind. Whenever you're doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that is not wisdom involved. That's probably somebody else's idea of right, because that can be a massive impact, can't it, on what's in our head. You know what's right for you, and that comes from inside you. And if you just want more guiding towards that, then we can have a conversation. So have a beautiful day. It's Friday again already. As I always say, thank you so much for watching. I still am Claire Downham with today's step from stress to inner peace. Take care of yourselves and have a beautiful Friday and a lovely weekend. Thank you.